Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, Jens Davidson here again. So I'm here in Chicagoland at my parents' house. Quick video for you, but a fun one. Did some antique store exploring today and met this little gem. This is a Stanley Bailey number 4. It is a Type 6, meaning this was made between 1888 and 1892. So this is officially my oldest hand plane. It's about the same age as my violin, frankly. It's in pretty decent shape. The Japanning is flaking off pretty significantly back here. The front is otherwise fine. The sides and the bottom of it, somebody clearly at some point in time went to town on this thing with what I presume to be an angle grinder. You can see pretty aggressive. It's not very deep. You can hardly feel it with your fingernail, but pretty aggressive, artifacts essentially from going after this thing with an angle grinder to try and clean it up. But they did clean the rust off of it. So I bought it, frankly, because I need it. I'm installing windows at my parents' house. This is over Thanksgiving weekend, and I needed a plane, but I didn't really know that I was going to be installing windows this weekend. My dad asked me to help him with it after I was already down here, so I wasn't able to bring any of my bench planes from my home up in Wisconsin. So I came down here, needed a plane, and I figured I'm not going to go to Menards or Home Depot and buy some Chinese-made garbage with a Stanley name on it. I'm going to go find an antique store and buy a proper American-made antique. And yeah, the funny thing is, I paid $25 for this. So this might be my cheapest plane that I have, except for the ones that I inherited from my grandfathers. But it's my oldest as well. And it's in, again, pretty good shape. This was obviously used fairly recently. Excuse me here, I'm trying to pop the lever cap. It's a little tight. The bevel on this plane is actually pretty good. It's got a nice high reflectance on there. Yes, there's some chips on the sides, but really not bad. Totally usable. I'm going to hone it up and touch up the edge before I actually use it. But yeah, somebody used this thing and took pretty decent care of it. The only thing I don't like is the angle grinder attack on the sides of the plane, but I will go ahead and take care of that. You can see here, flip it around for you. Bailey's patent, December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1867. There are websites online, resources where you can go and sort of identify various characteristics of these old planes, particularly Stanley Bailey's. There's not so much info on other manufacturers like Union, but anyhow, there are various features throughout the plane that allow you to identify the age of it, because there were well-documented resources on how characteristics of the plane changed over the years and throughout the patent dates. So for identifying this plane, the features were, as soon as I looked at it and saw the front knob, that was a dead giveaway to me that it was at least in the early 1900s, because that profile of knob is called the hot air balloon style, I think it is. And they did away with that and went with a taller knob, because this one was a little lower and they wanted to have a taller knob that was, put your hand up a little bit higher, a little bit further away from the woodwork. But early models had a shorter, fatter front knob, and also the front knob. This is a real easy check for identifying old planes. All you have to do is just unscrew the front knob, and do you see any raised ridge here? No, we don't. And the same is true of the rear handle, which is also called a tote. I don't know why they call it a tote, but there is no raised ridge around the periphery of the rear tote. Those features came around in like the 19 teens, I believe it is. So anyway, moving on from the handles, that was obviously my first dead giveaway that it's an old plane. Looking at the lateral adjustment lever here, it's kind of hard to read, but there are 3 patent dates. You can kind of see it. Yeah, you should be able to see that fairly well. It's hard to read the numbers. I can read the first one. Looks like 1870 something. But there's 2 more. Sorry, I'm out of frame here. There's 2 more below that, and you can clearly see that there's 3 patent dates. And then finally, the last giveaway was on the depth adjustment screw here. You can barely make out. I mean, it's hard because it's inside here, and I'm, holding my phone with a hand. But you can see, yeah, you can read that. There's Bailey's patent. If we can get the glare out of there. Well, anyway, there's 2 patent dates in there. One's August 31st, 1858, and the second one is, I can't remember what the second one was. But anyhow, yeah, it's hard to read it because it's at a bad angle. But anyway, those 2 patent dates in there were the last confirmation, the last clue as to the age of it. And yeah, so this is my oldest plane. My second oldest plane was one that I bought back in, I believe, May of this year, of 2021. And it is from the 1894 ballpark. It's a block plane, so block planes are not as easily dateable as the more traditional, number 4s and 3s and so on and so forth. But yeah, anyway, I'm very excited to have this lovely new plane in my collection. I do plan on doing a very nice restoration on it, which will include, of course, scraping the sole flat, because I always do that. Makes a huge difference in the performance, and will mate up the relationship between the frog and the body of the plane, using lapping compound as we did before, and we'll make sure that this frog surface is flat, just to minimize any sort of vibrations that can occur between the plane iron and chip breaker being secured up against there. But I would also like to take off the Japanning on this thing, probably via sandblasting, get down to bare cast iron, and then I would like to do a Japanning on it. Hand Tool Rescue, which is an incredibly popular and very, very highly recommended woodworking tool restoration channel. That individual has done a good bit of homework and due diligence on formulation of Japanning, which Japanning is the original black hardened finish that is on these old planes. And it's a fairly simple formula, and he actually just released a video yesterday, I believe it was, for a version of Japanning that you can just spray on so you get better application of it, and then bake it in your oven. So we're going to go ahead and give that a shot. I have a few other planes that need Japanning rework because they're pretty bad, and so I think it'll be a very nice touch-up. Fix the Japanning, scrape the sole flat, probably sand the sides so that they're a uniform finish. Try to get all of these these abrasion marks out of here, and then the inside of the plane will be glossy black with the Japanning. The bottom obviously will stay plain cast iron because it'll be scraped in, and then the sides and the face of the frog and the plain iron and chip breaker, I will finish those with a gun bluing compound, which is simple wipe on gun bluing you can buy at a hardware store. It looks really nice, and it helps to add a little bit of a layer of protection from rust. So anyway, another thing that I found at the antique stores was I don't remember what size it is, number 7 or 8 cast iron skillet. So there will be another cast iron video coming up. It is a Wagner, It's a nice one, very deep pan, which I really liked. It's kind of one of the reasons why I bought it. So we will do a cast iron video on that guy. And that one, so my past cast iron videos, I have been, chastised and beaten up and down because of using abrasive techniques of getting rid of the old seasoning. And frankly, I really don't care because it works, and these skillets are fully functional and beautiful. And to be clear, I am not a cast iron skillet collector. I don't purchase these things and hang them up on my wall or try to sell them or anything. I don't collect skillets for the sake of their value. I buy them to use them. But anyway, that said, there are methods of cleaning the old seasoning and creosote patinas from cast iron skillets that are much friendlier on the iron. Two of those methods include spraying it with oven cleaner, a chemical that will eventually soak through and clean off the patina, or the seasoning rather. And another method involves putting the skillet inside an oven and turning the oven on the cleaning cycle, and then leaving it overnight to very slowly warm up and very slowly cool down. And I think I'm going to try probably the oven clean method. I believe that the slow increase of temperature up to, I think, about 800 degrees Fahrenheit is how hot those go. With the very slow increase in temperature and the very slow relaxed cooling by just leaving it in there and not opening the oven for an entire day, that should not jeopardize the iron. It shouldn't crack from rapid thermal cycling, because everything will be nice and slow and controlled. And from what I've seen on other videos, it seems to do a heck of a job. It literally flakes everything off of there and leaves you with a bare cast iron. So probably going to do that, just because I'm not in love with the idea of spraying an oven cleaner on a cast iron skillet, because again, cast iron is a very porous material, and that means that the chemicals that you're spraying on there, they are intended for cleaning an oven, and you don't cook on surfaces inside of an oven. You cook food inside some other container, a skillet, for example, or a Dutch oven inside the oven. And so I don't know that I'm in love with the idea of spraying a chemical onto cast iron, knowing that it's a porous surface, and then cooking on that and seasoning it, just because there might be some residue left over. It's probably fine. It'll be, theoretically covered up by all the polymerized fatty acids and everything that you're baking on there as you season it and cook it and use it. But if I can get away with not having to buy another chemical in my house, I don't have to buy a spray-on oven cleaner. I can just put my skillet in the oven and bake it. I'm going to go with that route. It's a lot simpler. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I'm not going to do any editing on this video. Just wanted to take you along on a couple new antiques that I've got. I'll show you the cast iron skillets in my truck, but we'll bring that one online when I get back to my place in Wisconsin and we start working on cleaning that up. So hope you all had a very happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you on the next video. Bye now.